The message came through every radio telescope on Earth at exactly 14:23 Greenwich Mean Time on a Tuesday afternoon. Dr. Sarah Chun was drinking her third cup of coffee when the computers at the Arecibo facility started screaming alerts. The signal wasn't just strong, it was impossibly clear, cutting through cosmic background radiation like a laser through fog. "This can't be right," she whispered, staring at the translation software churning through the alien mathematics. The universal constants were there, pi, the speed of light, basic physics, but wrapped around something else. Something desperate. Within 6 hours, every major space agency had confirmed it. The signal was coming from the Proxima Centauri system, and it wasn't natural. Something was calling for help. The translation took 3 days of round-the-clock work by linguists, mathematicians, and computer scientists from every corner of Earth. When they finally cracked it, the message was simple and terrifying. "We are the HFY Coalition. Our worlds burn. The Devourers come. We have detected your electromagnetic signatures. You are young, but you have technology. We beg you, send anything you can. Our children will not survive another cycle. Coordinates follow. Time remaining, 7 of your months. Please." The coordinates pointed to a star system 42 light-years away. The attached data showed pictures that made grown scientists weep. Cities in flames, massive black ships blotting out alien suns, refugees fleeing in vessels that looked held together with hope and desperation. President Martinez called an emergency session of the United Nations. The debate lasted 18 hours. Some argued it was a hoax. Others said humanity wasn't ready for galactic warfare. A few suggested it was a trap. But the images kept coming. More desperate messages. Star charts showing the Devourer's path of destruction. A line of dead systems stretching across 20 light-years, all heading toward the HFY worlds. "What exactly are we supposed to send?" demanded the Russian delegate. "We barely have a moon base. Our fastest ships would take 40,000 years to reach them." Dr. Chun, now serving as the scientific advisor to the crisis committee, pulled up classified files that made the room go silent. "Actually, we have options. Projects that were deemed too dangerous or expensive for normal space exploration. But for this," she showed them Project Longshot, humanity's most ambitious starship design, originally created for interstellar colonization. The plans called for a massive vessel powered by fusion ramjets, capable of reaching 12% light speed. It would take 3.5 years to reach the HFY system. The ship was never built because of cost and complexity, Dr. Chen explained. The power requirements alone would need 40% of Earth's total energy output for 6 months just to launch it. "What about weapons?" asked General Morrison from the Pentagon. "If we're going to war, we need to think like warriors." That's when Dr. Chan revealed the most classified project of all. "There's something else. Something we've been working on since the 1960s, but never deployed. Project Sunburst." The room filled with whispers as she explained the theoretical weapon systems. Particle beam arrays that could strip electrons from matter at the atomic level, fusion torpedoes that burned with the heart of stars, and defensive shields that could deflect energy equivalent to nuclear explosions. "You're talking about building a weapon of mass destruction," the Chinese representative said quietly. "No," Dr. Chen replied. "I'm talking about building hope." The vote was closer than history would record. 127 nations in favor, 66 against, with 37 abstentions. But it was enough. Project Starfall was born. Within a week, every major corporation on Earth had retooled their factories. SpaceX, Blue Origin, and a dozen other space companies merged their resources. The International Space Station became the construction hub for humanity's first warship. The ship took shape like nothing ever built before. 800 meters long, bristling with weapons that existed only in theory until desperate necessity made them real. The hull was constructed from metamaterials that could absorb and redirect energy. The engines were fusion ramjets designed to drink hydrogen from space itself. But it needed a crew. Not just any crew, people willing to travel across the galaxy with no guarantee of return. The applications flooded in from every country. Fighter pilots, nuclear engineers, linguists, doctors, soldiers. More than 50,000 people volunteered for what everyone knew was likely a suicide mission. Commander Elena Vasquez, former captain of the USS Georgian nuclear submarine, was chosen to lead them. Her crew of 200 represented the best of humanity. Physicists who understood the alien technology they were trying to save, soldiers trained in zero-gravity combat, engineers who could rebuild the ship with spare parts and raw determination. The launch date was set for 6 months after first contact. The aliens' messages grew more desperate with each passing week. The Devourers had reached the outer system. 3 of the 7 HFY worlds had already gone silent. On launch day, nearly every human on Earth stopped what they were doing to watch. The ship, christened the Terra's Hammer, hung in orbit like humanity's raised fist against the darkness. Dr. Chun, now serving as the ship's chief science officer, felt the weight of 6 billion hopes pressing down on her shoulders. All systems green, Commander Vasquez announced over the comm, fusion ramjets at standby. Navigation locked on target coordinates. The countdown reached 0. Space tore open as the Terra's Hammer began its burn. The ship accelerated slowly at first, then faster as the ramjets began feeding on interstellar hydrogen. Within 6 hours, it was traveling faster than any human-made object in history. Behind them, Earth grew smaller until it was just another dot of light among the stars. Ahead lay the unknown, an alien war that humanity had chosen to join with nothing but determination and the most powerful warship their species had ever built. In the ship's observation deck, Dr. Chun watched the stars stretch into lines as they approached their cruising speed of 12% light speed. Somewhere in that darkness, an alien species was making its last stand against extinction. Humanity was coming to help. 3.5 years to reach them. 3.5 years to prepare for a war against an enemy they had never seen, using weapons they had never tested, to save people they had never met. The Terra's Hammer disappeared into the cosmic dark, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of an entire species that had decided, in their first moment of contact with the wider galaxy, that they would stand against the darkness. The universe was about to learn what humans did when someone asked for help / hashtag the journey between Stars Commander Elena Vasquez floated in the ship's command center, watching the alien star grow larger on their screens. 3.5 years of traveling through the void had changed them all. The crew that had left Earth's orbit as strangers had become a family forged in the crucible of deep space. Dr. Sarah Chun pushed off from a wall, gliding over to the navigation console. Her hair, now gray at the temples, floated freely in the zero gravity. We're detecting massive energy signatures ahead. The HFY weren't lying about the scale of this war. The journey had not been peaceful. 6 months into their flight, they had encountered their first Devourer scout ship, a sleek black vessel the size of a city block that had tried to intercept them. The Terra's Hammer's defensive systems had vaporized it in seconds, but not before the alien ship had transmitted their position. Since then, they had fought running battles with 3 more scout fleets. Each encounter had taught them something new about their enemy. The Devourers were not just conquerors, they were harvesters. Their ships consumed matter itself, breaking down everything from asteroids to entire planets into pure energy. Captain, Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison called from the weapons station. We're receiving a transmission. It's them. The HFY. The main screen flickered to life, showing a face that was almost but not quite human. The alien had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, skin that shifted color with emotion, and breathing apparatus that suggested a different atmospheric composition. When it spoke, the translation computers rendered its words in perfect English. Unknown vessel, you approach our dying system. Turn back before the Devourers consume you as well. We do not wish your deaths on our conscience. Commander Vasquez activated the comm system. This is Commander Vasquez of the Earth vessel Terra's Hammer. We receive your distress call. We're here to help. The alien skin shifted from gray to brilliant gold, an expression the crew had learned meant surprise or shock during their years of studying HFY linguistics from the transmitted data. Earth? The small blue world? But your signal was so primitive, so young. How did you cross the void? We built a very big ship and pointed it in your direction, Vasquez replied with a slight smile. We heard you needed help. The alien, who introduced himself as Fleet Commander HFY, guided them to the last HFY stronghold. What they found there broke their hearts and strengthened their resolve in equal measure. The system was a graveyard. 3 planets had been completely stripped of matter, leaving only empty space where worlds once spun. Massive debris fields floated where moons used to orbit. The electromagnetic spectrum was filled with the death screams of a civilization fighting for survival. But they were still fighting. The remaining HFY fleet, perhaps 300 ships of various sizes, held position around their homeworld like an umbrella of defiance. They were outnumbered 50-1 by the Devourer swarm, but they had not surrendered. My God, Dr. Chun whispered as the tactical display populated with enemy contacts. There are thousands of them. The Devourer fleet was like nothing in human experience. Ships the size of mountains floated alongside vessels that looked grown rather than built. At the center, a command ship the size of Earth's moon pulsed with dark energy. But it was the smaller ships that caught the crew's attention. Millions of them, swarming like insects around their larger cousins. Fleet Commander HFY, Vasquez, said over the comm, "We're one ship against their entire fleet. What's your battle plan?" Battle plan? The alien's laugh was bitter. We hold position and die with honor. Our evacuation ships launched yesterday with the last of our children. If we can delay the Devourers for even a few hours, some might escape. How many children? 50,000. All that remains of the HFY young. The Terra's hammer was silent for a long moment. In the ship's conference room, the senior staff gathered for what they all knew might be their final tactical meeting. Options? Vasquez asked simply. We could run, suggested Lieutenant Parr from engineering. Try to escort the evacuation ships. Save what we can. Negative, replied Dr. Chun. The Devourer fleet would catch them within days. This is their last stand. Major Williams, the ship's military commander, pulled up the tactical display. One ship against thousands. Even with our advanced weapons, the math doesn't work. Since when has humanity cared about impossible math? Dr. Chun asked quietly. We're here because 50,000 alien children need someone to hold the line. What'll we tell Earth if we turned around now? Commander Vasquez looked around the table at her crew, humans who had left everything behind to travel across the galaxy for strangers. All right then, we make our stand here. Jake, what's our weapons status? Lieutenant Commander Morrison smiled grimly. All fusion torpedoes loaded and armed. Particle beam arrays are charged to full capacity. Point defense systems are online. And Captain, I've been working on something special during the journey. He activated a holographic display showing the Terra's hammer's main weapon, a massive particle beam array that ran the length of the ship. I've been modifying the targeting systems with HFY stellar cartography data. We can use their sun as a focusing lens. Dr. Chen's eyes widened. You want to use the star itself as part of our weapon system? The Devourers feed on matter and energy, but there's one type of energy that even they can't absorb, solar neutrinos. If we can channel the star's output through our particle beam array, we turn their strength against them, Vasquez finished. How long do you need? Give me 6 hours to align the targeting computers. You have it. Sarah, signal Fleet Commander HFY. Tell him that Earth stands with the HFY coalition. The alien's response came back within minutes. Commander Vasquez, we are honored by your bravery. But one ship cannot. Fleet Commander, Vasquez interrupted, you don't know humans very well yet. We specialize in impossible situations. Just keep your people alive for 6 more hours. The Devourer fleet began its final advance as the Terra's hammer took position between the aliens and their prey. On Earth, automated messages began transmitting humanity's first act of interstellar diplomacy, standing against genocide in the darkness between stars. The greatest battle in human history was about to begin, and they were outnumbered 10,000 to 1. Commander Vasquez looked out at the approaching enemy fleet and smiled. All right, people. Time to show the galaxy what humans do when someone threatens children. The Terra's hammer powered up its weapons and prepared to write humanity's name across the stars in letters of fire hashtag after the Stormfleet commander, HFY, stepped aboard the Terra's hammer through an airlock that had been hastily repaired with HFY technology. The alien skin shifted through a cascade of colors that Dr. Chun had learned to recognize as profound gratitude mixed with overwhelming relief. Commander Vasquez, HFY said, his four eyes taking in the battle damage that scarred every surface of the ship. Your species has done something we believed impossible. You have given us hope. The Terra's hammer was a wounded giant. 30% of the ship was uninhabitable due to hull breaches. The fusion ramjets were operating at barely 50% capacity. Most of the weapons systems were fused slag from the stellar amplification attack. But the crew was alive, and more importantly, so were the 50,000 HFY children whose evacuation ships were now returning from the edge of the system. Dr. Chun floated beside the conference table, reviewing the data they had gathered during the battle. Fleet Commander, we need to understand what we're dealing with. The Devourers, where do they come from? How many more fleets like this are out there? HFY's skin turned a deep blue that Chun had learned meant sadness. They are old, Dr. Chun. Perhaps older than any species in the galaxy. We believe they come from the galactic core, where the density of stars made it possible for them to consume entire systems without traveling far. But now they spread outward, leaving only emptiness behind. How many systems have they destroyed? Asked Commander Vasquez. In our sector alone? Nearly 100. They move slowly, but they are thorough. Every planet, every asteroid, every speck of matter is consumed. They leave behind only empty space and dark energy. Major Williams leaned forward. But they can be stopped. We proved that today. You proved that they can be destroyed, yes. But this was only one fleet. Intelligence reports suggest there are dozens more, perhaps hundreds, each one larger than the last, as they consume more matter and grow stronger. The weight of that statement settled over the human crew like a heavy blanket. They had won a single battle, but the war was far larger than any of them had imagined. There's something else, Dr. Chin said quietly. During the battle, I was monitoring their communications. The Devourers weren't just attacking randomly. They were specifically targeting worlds with developing civilizations. They seem to prefer species that are just beginning to reach for the stars. Why? Asked Vasquez. HFY's skin turned pale gray. Because young species are the most creative, the most adaptable. The Devourers don't just consume matter. They consume potential. They feed on the dreams and possibilities of entire civilizations. The comm system crackled to life. Lieutenant Park's voice came through from the engineering deck. Captain, we're receiving multiple transmissions from across the galaxy. Looks like word is spreading about what happened here. The main screen filled with a dozen different alien faces, each representing a different species. Some were humanoid, others were so alien that the human crew struggled to recognize them as intelligent life. But they all had one thing in common: hope. This is the Veltar Republic, announced a being that looked like a cross between an octopus and a crystal. We heard about your victory over the Devourers. Our worlds are next in their path. Can you help us? The Zren Collective adds our voice, said another alien, this one with features that shifted like liquid metal. We have been preparing for the Devourers' arrival for 3 cycles. We need your weapons technology. More voices joined in. Species that had never spoken to each other were united by a common thread and a common hope. Humanity, less than 4 years removed from first learning about alien life, found themselves at the center of a galactic alliance. Commander Vasquez looked around at her crew. They were exhausted, their ship was damaged, and they were 42 light years from home. But the aliens on the screen were looking at them with the same desperate hope that the HFY had shown when they first sent their distress call. How many species are threatened by the Devourers? Vasquez asked. Fleet Commander HFY consulted his data pad. Conservative estimates suggest 47 inhabited systems are in the path of confirmed devourer fleets. Possible estimates are much higher. Dr. Chun was already running calculations. Even if we could repair the Terra's hammer completely, we can't be in 47 places at once. We need a different strategy. What are you thinking, Sarah? Asked Vasquez. We don't fight this war by ourselves. We teach others to fight it. Share our technology. Help them build their own Star Destroyers. Major Williams nodded slowly. Turn the entire galaxy into a weapon against the Devourers. The alien faces on the screen had been listening to the human conversation with growing excitement. The crystal octopus being spoke first. You would share your weapons technology freely? What do you want in return? Nothing, Vasquez replied. We want you to survive. We want your children to see tomorrow. That's enough. The silence that followed was profound. Finally, Zephi spoke. Commander Vasquez, in all the history of our species, no one has ever offered help without demanding something in return. Your people are unusual. Our people are human, Vasquez replied with a smile. And humans don't like bullies, especially bullies who pick on children. Over the following weeks, the Terra's hammer became the center of the galaxy's first true alliance. Engineers from dozens of species worked together to understand human weapons technology. The Veltar Republic offered their expertise in quantum mechanics. The Zren Collective shared their advanced manufacturing techniques. The Kethvar provided detailed intelligence on devourer tactics and weaknesses. But it was the humans who provided something else, something that no species had possessed in their long war against the Devourers. They provided the absolute certainty that the war could be won. Every species we've encountered has accepted that some losses are inevitable. Dr. Chun explained to the growing alliance. You've all been fighting defensive wars, try to minimize casualties. Humans don't think that way. How do humans think? Asked Zephi. We think that one dead civilian is one too many. We think that if someone threatens children, you don't negotiate with them. You stop them. Permanently. The first ships of a new galactic defense force began construction in the Kethvar system 2 months after the battle. They were based on human designs, but improved with alien technology. Veltar Quantum Shields. Zren Manufacturing Precision. Kethvar Tactical Computers. Each ship was dedicated to a simple principle that humans had brought to the galaxy. No child, of any species, would die to feed the darkness between the stars. As the Terra's hammer underwent repairs using technology from a dozen different worlds, Commander Vasquez received a message from Earth. The transmission had taken over 4 years to reach them, but the words were simple and clear. Terra's hammer, this is Earth Command. We're proud of you. We're also sending reinforcements. The Terra's sword, Terra's shield, and Terra's hope are en route. Humanity stands with our new friends. Dr. Chun looked out at the construction yards where dozens of new ships were taking shape. You know what the most beautiful part of all this is? What's that? Asked Vasquez. 4 years ago, we were alone in the universe. Now we're part of something bigger, something worth fighting for. The galaxy was learning what it meant to have humanity as an ally. And the Devourers were about to learn what it meant to have humanity as an enemy. Hashtag the battle for everything. The Devourer fleet came like a tide of darkness, blotting out the stars. Commander Vasquez watched the tactical display as thousands of enemy contacts moved toward their position with mechanical precision. Each ship pulsed with the same dark energy signature, as if they were all parts of a single, massive organism. Contact in 30 minutes, reported Lieutenant Commander Morrison from Weapons. The modification to the particle beam array is complete, but, Captain, what we're about to attempt has never been tested. Dr. Chun floated beside him, her hands dancing over the stellar mechanics console. The star's magnetic field is aligned properly. If we can punch through the Devourer formation and reach the correct position, we can use the sun's own fusion output to amplify our weapons by a factor of 10,000. And if it doesn't work? Asked Major Williams. Then we die fighting, Vasquez replied simply. Better than dying running. Fleet Commander Zephai's voice crackled over the comm. Terra's hammer. The enemy has begun their final approach. Our weapons barely scratch their hulls. How do you plan to succeed where we have failed? We're going to do something they won't expect, Vasquez answered. Instead of running from them, we're running toward them, all the way to your sun. The silence that followed lasted nearly a minute. When Zephai spoke again, his voice carried a mixture of admiration and disbelief. You plan to dive into our system's star? That is either the bravest or most insane strategy one have ever heard. Probably both. But it's what we've got. The first Devourer scouts reached weapons range at 1432 ship time. They were sleek, predatory things that moved through space like sharks through water. The Terra's hammer's point defense systems lit them up with fusion pulses, turning the vacuum into a light show of destruction. But for every scout destroyed, 10 more took its place. Beginning our attack run, announced Vasquez. All hands, this is the captain. What we're about to do goes against every instinct of space warfare. We're going to charge straight into the enemy fleet at maximum acceleration. Hold on to something solid. The Terra's hammer's fusion ramjets roared to full power. The ship, already traveling at a significant fraction of light speed, began accelerating toward the Devourer fleet like a guided missile. The gravitational forces should have turned the crew in a paste, but the ship's inertial dampening systems held them safe in their impossible charge. First wave contact in 10 seconds, Morrison called out. Fusion torpedoes armed and ready. The universe exploded around them. The Terra's hammer plunged into the Devourer formation like a sword through silk. Fusion torpedoes launched in all directions, each one carrying the destructive power of a hydrogen bomb. The ship's particle beam arrays carved through enemy hulls like hot knives through butter. But the Devourers fought back with weapons that defied human understanding. Beams of pure darkness that seemed to drain energy from space itself. Projectiles that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Ships that could phase in and out of reality. Hull breach on Deck 7, reported Chief Engineer Park over the noise of alarms. Sealing emergency bulkheads. Keep us moving, Vasquez ordered, gripping her command chair as the ship shook under enemy fire. We need to reach the solar amplification point. The Terra's hammer carved a path of destruction through the enemy fleet, but they were taking massive damage in return. Hull plates were torn away by Devourer weapons. Entire sections of a ship vented atmosphere into space. The crew fought for their lives while their ship fought for the freedom of an alien species. 30% of our weapons systems are offline, Morrison reported. But we're almost through their formation. The star is dead ahead. Dr. Chen's console lit up with stellar mechanics data. The magnetic field alignment is perfect. If we can survive the next 60 seconds, we can turn this entire star into our weapon. But the Devourers had realized what humanity was attempting. The massive command ship, the one the size of Earth's moon, began moving to intercept them. Its weapons were on a scale that dwarfed anything the smaller ships carried. When it fired, space itself seemed to bend around the energy discharge. Evasive action, Vasquez shouted. The Terra's hammer twisted through space like a dancer, its inertial dampening systems screaming protests as they tried to compensate for the impossible maneuvers. The Devourer command ship's weapon passed so close that the ship's hull began to glow from thermal radiation. We're not going to make it, Major Williams said grimly, watching the tactical display. They'll intercept us before we reach the amplification point. That's when Fleet Commander Zephai's voice came over the comm, filled with desperate resolve. Terra's hammer, this is the HFY fleet. We're coming to assist. On the tactical display, the entire surviving HFY fleet had broken from their defensive positions around their homeworld. 300 ships, each one carrying the last hopes of their civilization, charged toward the Devourer command ship. Negative, Fleet Commander, Vasquez protested. Your ships can't penetrate their defenses. Perhaps not, Zephai replied. But we could buy you the time you need. For our children, human friends. For all the children of the galaxy. The Kethvar fleet hit the Devourer command ship like waves against a seawall. Their weapons, primitive compared to human technology, barely scratched the massive alien vessel. But their sacrifice created the distraction the Terra's hammer needed. Now, Dr. Chin shouted, "We're in position." Lieutenant Commander Morrison's hands flew over his controls. Stellar amplification system online, targeting the center of their fleet. All remaining fusion torpedoes loaded with stellar guidance packages. "Fire everything," Vasquez ordered. The Terra's hammer unleashed humanity's fury in a single, coordinated barrage. But this wasn't just the ship's weapons firing. It was the star itself. The particle beam array, aligned with the sun's magnetic field, channeled the fusion fire of an entire star into a focused beam of destruction. The effect was beyond anything in human experience. The beam struck the Devourer command ship and simply erased it from existence. The energy continued through the fleet, vaporizing everything in its path. Thousands of Devourer ships died in seconds as stellar fire washed over them. But the effort nearly destroyed the Terra's hammer as well. Every system on the ship overloaded simultaneously. The lights went out. Life support failed. The fusion ramjets sputtered and died. In the sudden silence, Dr. Chin's voice was barely a whisper. "Did we get them?" The tactical display flickered back to life, showing the aftermath of their impossible attack. Where the Devourer fleet had been, only empty space remained. A few scattered survivors fled toward the edge of the system, but the massive swarm that had threatened to consume an entire civilization was gone. "Contact from the Kethvar fleet," Morrison reported, his voice filled with amazement. "Fleet Commander HFY is requesting permission to come aboard." Commander Vasquez, bleeding from a head wound but still in command, activated the comm system. "Permission granted, Fleet Commander. I think we have a lot to talk about." As the Kethvar ships moved to assist the damaged Terra's hammer, Dr. Chin looked out at the stars that no longer seemed quite so dark. Humanity had traveled across the galaxy to help strangers, and in doing so, they had announced to the universe that Earth would not tolerate genocide. The battle was won, but the real work was just beginning. An entire species needed to be rebuilt, and humanity had just volunteered to help hashtag the Fire of Stars 2 years after the first battle. The galaxy had changed beyond recognition. What began as humanity's desperate rescue mission had grown into the largest military alliance in galactic history. The Galactic Defense Force now numbered over 3,000 ships, each one a fusion of human determination and alien innovation. Commander Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Terra's hammer, but the ship bearing that name was nothing like the vessel that had left Earth's orbit 5 years earlier. Rebuilt with technology from 17 different species, it was now the flagship of a fleet that spanned multiple star systems. "Intelligence reports are coming in from our deep space scouts," reported Lieutenant Commander Morrison, whose tactical displays now showed real-time data from across 40 light-years of space. The Devourers are massing for a major offensive. Every fleet they have is converging on the galactic rim. Dr. Chun, now serving as the Alliance's chief science coordinator, pulled up holographic displays that showed the scope of the coming battle. "They've learned from our victories. Instead of attacking isolated systems, they're combining their forces for one massive assault." The numbers were staggering. Intelligence suggested the Devourers were bringing nearly 1,000,000 ships to bear against the Alliance worlds. It would be the largest space battle in galactic history. "How many ships can we field?" asked Vasquez. Fleet Commander HFY, now serving as the Alliance's strategic coordinator, consulted his data pad. 4,700 combat vessels, with 1,500 more in construction. "We're outnumbered 4-1. Better odds than we had at the first battle," Major Williams pointed out. "Back then, it was 10,000-1. Different scale entirely," Dr. Chin replied. "This isn't about one system anymore. If we lose this battle, the Devourers will have enough resources to consume the entire galactic rim. Billions of lives across hundreds of worlds." The main screen flickered to life, showing representatives from every member species of the Alliance. Humans Kethvar, Veltar, Zrin, and dozens of others that humanity was still learning to identify. But they all shared the same expression: determination mixed with fear. "The evacuation of non-combatants is complete," reported Admiral Sarah Chun from her position aboard the Terra's Hope. She had been promoted to oversee the Alliance's logistics, a job that involved coordinating the movement of trillions of civilians across dozens of star systems. "All civilian populations have been moved to the core worlds," she continued. "But if we fail here, those worlds will only delay the inevitable by a few months." Commander Vasquez looked around at the faces on her screen, both human and alien. These people had trusted humanity to lead them in the greatest war their galaxy had ever seen. The weight of that responsibility was crushing. "Ideas?" she asked simply. "We could spread our forces across multiple systems," suggested one of the Veltar admirals. "Force them to divide their fleet to attack us." "Negative," replied Admiral Chun. "We've run the simulations. Divided, we lose every engagement. Our only chance is to concentrate our forces and make them come to us." Dr. Chin activated a stellar cartograph that showed the entire galactic rim. "There's another option, something we've been developing in secret for the past year. We call it Project Starfire." The display zoomed in on a star system that lay directly in the path of the Devourer advance. The star was massive, nearly 20 times the size of Earth's sun, and approaching the end of its natural life cycle. "You want to turn a star into a weapon," Vasquez said. It wasn't a question. Not just any star. This one is already unstable. With the right gravitational manipulation, we can accelerate its collapse and direct the resulting supernova. The energy release would be visible from the galactic core. The silence that followed was absolute. Finally, Fleet Commander Zephi spoke. "Dr. Chun, are you suggesting we destroy an entire star system to stop the Devourers?" "The system is uninhabited, has been for millions of years, and the star is going to go supernova anyway within the next 100,000 years. We're just adjusting the timing. The energy requirements would be enormous," pointed out one of the Zren engineers. "Even our combined fleets couldn't generate enough power." "That's where this comes in," Dr. Chin replied, activating another display. "Meet the Terra's Forge." The ship that appeared on screen was unlike anything ever built. It wasn't designed for battle. It was designed for construction on a stellar scale. Nearly 2 kilometers long and bristling with gravitational manipulation technology, it looked more like a mobile shipyard than a starship. For the past year, our best engineers from every species have been working on this project in secret. The Forge can manipulate gravitational fields on a planetary scale. If we can position it correctly, we can destabilize the star's core and direct the explosion toward the Devourer fleet. "And if it doesn't work?" asked Admiral Williams. "Then we fight them the old-fashioned way and hope we get lucky." The vote was unanimous. Operation Starfire was approved. The next 3 months were a frenzy of preparation. Every ship in the Alliance fleet was retrofitted with enhanced shields designed to survive the radiation of a nearby supernova. Evacuation procedures were rehearsed until every crew member could find an escape pod in the dark. Scientists worked around the clock to refine the gravitational manipulation equations. Meanwhile, deep space scouts tracked the approaching Devourer fleet. The reports were terrifying. The alien ships had grown larger and more numerous since the first encounter. Their flagship, if it could be called that, was larger than most moons and pulsed with dark energy that seemed to bend space around it. "They're not just coming to destroy us," Dr. Chen realized as she studied the intelligence reports. "They're coming to make an example of us, to show the galaxy what happens when someone fights back." The Devourer fleet arrived exactly when the Alliance predicted. Nearly 1 million ships emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the target system, their dark hulls blocking out entire star fields. At their center, the massive command ship that dwarfed even Earth's moon. "All Alliance forces. This is Commander Vasquez," she announced over the fleet-wide comm. "Today we decide whether this galaxy belongs to us or to the darkness. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every child who deserves to see tomorrow. The Terra's forge moved into position, its gravitational manipulators reaching deep into the star's core. The process would take 12 hours, 12 hours during which the Alliance fleet would have to hold against impossible odds. The battle began as the Devourer Vanguard reached weapons range. Space erupted in light as thousands of ships exchanged fire. The Alliance ships, outnumbered but not outgunned, carved through the enemy formation with weapons that burned with stellar fire. But the Devourers kept coming. For every ship destroyed, two more took its place. The Alliance line began to buckle under the relentless assault. Forge status. Vasquez called out over the sound of weapons fire and damage reports. 6 hours to stellar destabilization. Dr. Chen replied from her position aboard the massive construction ship. The gravitational manipulation is working, but we need more time. Time we don't have, Major Williams pointed out as another wave of Devourer ships broke through the Alliance defensive line. That's when the message came through on all channels. A transmission from Earth that had taken 4.5 years to cross the void. "This is Admiral Harrison of Earth's Second Fleet," came the voice that made every human crew member stand straighter. "Sorry we're late to the party. Hope you saved some for us." The hyperspace emergence signatures lit up the tactical displays like fireworks. 50 new ships, each one larger and more advanced than the original Terra's hammer, dropped in normal space and immediately opened fire on the Devourer rearguard. "Second Fleet, this is Commander Vasquez. Your timing is perfect. We've been tracking your progress through the Quantum Communication Network," Admiral Harrison replied. "Earth sends its regards and its biggest guns." The new ships were marvels of human engineering, incorporating everything learned from 5 years of galactic warfare. They tore through the Devourer formation like wolves among sheep, their weapons systems burning with the concentrated fury of an entire species. But the real surprise came from an unexpected source. Long-range sensors detected massive energy signatures approaching from the galactic core. Not Devourers, but something else entirely. "Identifying new contacts," reported Lieutenant Commander Morrison. They're ancient HFY war machines. The historical archives mention them, but we thought they were legends. Fleet Commander Zeph High's skin cycled through colors that Dr. Chun had never seen before. "The Guardians," he whispered. "The first HFY built them to protect the galaxy against threats from the cosmic void. They've been sleeping in the galactic core for 50,000 years. The ancient machines were massive beyond comprehension, each one the size of a small planet, but moving with the grace of a dancer. They had awakened to the sound of battle and come to defend their successors against the darkness that threatened all life." 2 hours to stellar collapse, Dr. Chun announced. "The gravitational cascade is accelerating. The combined fleet, Alliance ships, Earth's Second Fleet, and the ancient Guardians pressed their attack against the Devourer horde. The battle raged across multiple star systems as the star at its center began to die. When the end came, it was beautiful and terrible in equal measure. The star collapsed in on itself, then exploded outward with the force of 1 billion nuclear weapons. The directed energy beam, focused by the Terra's forge's gravitational manipulation, struck the heart of the Devourer fleet. The ancient enemy, which had consumed hundreds of civilizations, was erased from existence in a burst of stellar fire. Their command ship, their vast fleets, their dark hunger, all of it vanished in the light of a newborn nebula. In the aftermath, as the Alliance fleets regrouped and began rescue operations, Commander Vasquez received a message that would be remembered throughout galactic history. "This is the hegemony of the Golden Spiral," came a voice from the galactic core. "We have observed your war against the Devourers. We are an alliance of elder species, and we have remained hidden while younger civilizations rose and fell. But what humanity and its allies have accomplished here proves that the galaxy has finally produced defenders worthy of joining our ranks." Dr. Chen looked out at the newborn nebula where their enemies had died, then at the mixed fleet of human and alien ships that have become family. What do you think they'll want from us? Probably the same thing we've always wanted, Commander Vasquez replied with a smile. To make sure the children can sleep safely at night. The galaxy was safe, not just from the Devourers, but from anything else that might emerge from the darkness between stars. Because now it was protected by a species that had traveled 42 light years to help strangers, simply because someone had asked for help. Humanity had answered the call for help with everything they had. And in doing so, they had changed the galaxy forever.